So this is a course that, or this talk is based on tips that we're giving to our own instructors. We are doing primarily professional technical education, and the people who are building these courses are staff who work at the laboratory with us. They are people who are great with briefing, but really aren't teachers. And so to help them learn how to create courses and to help the team learn, we've created some teaching materials. So our goal here for everyone is that we all want to create effective online and blended learning environments, because in some cases you need to do some hands-on pieces in person. So the overall structure of the talk is I'm going to have a brief introduction to what we're aiming for, slight instructional design overview, because I talked about that a little bit last year, and then we'll work through the preparation, the capturing of content, the editing, and then the delivery within the course, and follow with a summary. Okay, so our starting point, your starting point really, you want an existing course or a workshop. You don't want to start and say, I'm going to make this fresh for an edX course, because then the content creation is enormous. That's a hard piece to start with. So our starting point is generally one of these three in-person type classroom experiences. So we probably all experience the traditional classroom, and one of the things that's great there is that personal relationship between the student and the classroom, the other students, and the student and the teacher. Workshops tend to be something that's more focused on a single topic. You tend to get them at conferences. You're mastering a specific skill, so they tend to be more intense and shorter. But again, we have social learning, and you're also meeting people who are interested in the same topics that you're interested in. And finally, tutoring. Tutoring is very personalized. It's very targeted to the individual and the individual's needs. And so in all of these, it's the personalization and interaction, the interactive nature, that make it really a dynamic learning environment. So we want to take this and bring it online. And in the blended environment, you can put a lot of it online, and then you have the personalization within the blended the personal part of the course. So, but when you bring it online, we're now having a number of videos, and we have assessments, and we have reading that we have to do. So there are still a number of benefits here. They're just different than the benefits from the in-person course. So we want to do our best to bring those things together. Last year I presented a process for converting a workshop to an online face-to-face, from the workshop to the online. And basically you start with your initial material. You want to review it and develop a concept map or a knowledge map. Then you sort that out, figure out what gaps are missing, fill the gaps in, and then create the courseware. We're going to focus on the two sections that are in the red boxes. So generally you hope that you have, generally you want to have a team. You have all of these roles, and you'd like to have a team where you have one or more people in every single one of these roles. So you have an instructor with the content. You have someone who's actually going to put the pieces into the platform. You have someone who really knows audio and video and can help you get good audio and video. And you have an instructional designer to help you take the in-class presentation and work it into the platform pedagogy. So right now, there's a good bit of information in the edX documentation on how to build the course, sort of how to put the pieces into the platform, how to build the assessments. So I'm not going to focus on this, and the instructor is also something that is it's a domain specific, so we won't be focusing on that as well. We're focusing on these three pieces. Our team, we have a team of 3, and one of those people is the sysadmin who keeps the platform going. So that means that we have an instructor and 2 other people to build courses. So we fill all these roles. And I want to walk through each one of these roles and talk about how we can sort of streamline the process. So just a very brief overview of instructional design. In every case, you have about 4 phases of learning material. You have someone who's a novice, they're just starting out, they've never seen it before. And this is true at every phase of your life. There's some point where you might be a novice and you know nothing about it and you're just starting. And then as you work with it, you begin to be able to make progress with the material, but you might still need help. You move up to where you're now a practitioner. You can do this all by yourself. You can't teach anyone yet, but you can do it without someone helping you out. And at the expert level, then you can do it and you can teach it. So every course, every learning experience, you want to go from one stage to another. Where you start depends on what, that would give you your sort of K-12, undergraduate, graduate, professional. It's all different aspects of this. So this is the generalization. So basically, when we're designing, we want to know at each stage, or the stage that you're designing for, what do you want the student to learn in this stage? And that's going to drive the content that you select and the content that you are curating for the student. So that drives the content. You want to know, how do you know that they've learned something? So what's the evidence that they've actually learned something? That's going to drive the design of the assessments. And finally, in order for them to learn and for you to know they've learned, what do you have to put in place to support all of that? And that's going to drive the design of the delivery. Some of the content as well, but mostly how you deliver that content to the student. Okay, so there's our basic framework. And now here, as I told you, this is going to be a quick overview of instructional design. So here are some of our best practices. We've talked about segmenting content. This is actually how people learn. We know from cognitive neuroscience that this is the way that people learn, and it matches what the edX platform has set up to have individual components and units. It also allows you to look at a piece of content, and then you can test yourself on that piece of content. At that point, if you understand it, great, you have reinforcement. But if you have a misconception, it's easy to correct the misconception before you go too far along within the course. So next, we need to think about designing assessments. So this is basically the practice that will reinforce the learning. It's never a problem. People say, oh, it's multiple choice questions. Multiple choice questions aren't bad in and of themselves. There are times where you need to understand the language of a discipline. Each discipline has its own language. And there are definitions, and that's a perfectly valid place to put multiple choice questions. If you don't understand the language that's being used and the definitions at the beginning, then when you get further on, you're going to be confused and you won't quite grasp the concepts. We want to have hands-on exercises because they allow you to learn the strategies for problem solving within the discipline. And of course, the best exercises actually work with real-world applications from your discipline. And then the delivery methods. So we have people where I'm from who are like, oh, it should be a video. Not everything should be a video. Reading is a perfectly valid way of people gaining content. There are things that really, it's faster to read them. I have computer-based training every year that I have to take. I read the PowerPoints because listening to the voice is too slow. So reading sometimes is the preferred method. The appropriate delivery method will differ across academic domains. And basically, our goal is going to be to find a way to transform a lecture or a discussion into some online format where you still have a meaningful experience. Okay, so let's talk about video, because this is we all know how to put the text and documents in there. But for the video, James, who is at the back of the room, said at an Open edX meetup in Boston, and he put it really well, video can take students places they can't otherwise go. Right? And we all think National Geographic, PBS, documentaries, all those places, the Serengeti. I haven't been to the Serengeti yet, but I've seen the Serengeti. So all of those places, and that's a great use of video. But the other use is the one that I feel gives you that a personalized experience. And this is that the video should give the student the feeling that they're looking over your shoulder, right? I'm deriving, so I'm in the engineering world. I'm deriving an expression. They should be able to look and see me derive that. They should see how I'm thinking about solving a problem. And that is one of the great things that video can do. They can see how I'm debugging code. So, and remember, not everything has to be video. Make sure that the medium is really appropriate to the lesson that you're teaching. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break here. Bear with me while I find my mouse. Here we go. And let's make this large. Don't move on me. And let's, sorry, we were testing the video and I didn't put it all the way back. So this is a very short video. It's less than 2 minutes. And I want to show it to you because we're going to use this.
Primary topic or question. In this case, the question is, how do I build a great LLX course? LLX is the Lincoln Laboratory instance of the Open edX platform. To start, we call the 3 understanding by design questions. What do I want the student to know or understand? How will I know that the student understands? What is the evidence? What do I need to put in place so the student can learn? With those questions in mind, we can drill into the primary question, how do I build a great LLX course? What do I need to consider in the design? What are the design drivers for content creation? How do I know that the students have learned anything? The first of these leads to issues of design. The second leads to authoring, and the third leads to assessments. Focusing on the design, we see that we want to pay attention to our learning goals, which will drive the course elements we need to consider and create, all while using instructional design best practices. Returning to our concept map, let's consider the authoring elements. One aspect of course authoring overlaps with the instructional design aspect, namely the question of how to transform lectures or presentations to an effective online format. Some aspects relate to delivery, others to the design. Another aspect of authoring is how best to build the content. This covers everything from video and audio recording, editing, to text or HTML. This is the section we'll focus on. Before turning to course creation, to complete our brief discussion of instructional design, here is the full concept map illustrating the connectivity between the individual topics and concepts.
So, bear with me. So the reason that I showed you the video is because we're going to use that video to walk through how I created it. So that this is our do-it-yourself authoring. That's our base video. So here was the video creation workflow. Content preparation, you saw the concept map. That, again, instructional design is a very brief part of this. You saw the content map. So I built out the materials. You could see that it was built out as they came along. I created a complete script, and I practiced that script. And we'll talk more about that. But one of the things about practicing the script, you find the gaps. But above all, we don't write the way we speak. And so when you actually start reading a script that you've written, you're tripping over all the words. So you have to change the wording. So then we'll talk about how do we prepare, how do we record or capture, editing, delivery, and integration. Okay, so preparation. So the first step is to figure out which concept are you working on. Is it small enough to be a single unit, or do you need to have a number of units, and are you going to break it up? I know that people keep saying 5 minutes for the video, but the thing is that if you have a derivation, so I'm talking again about mathematics, or you have a concept that's longer than that, don't break it up because someone told you 5 minutes. I've had students say to me, no, finish your thought, and then finish the video. So then determine what's the best method of delivery, text, maybe an image or a diagram or a thought exercise to prime them for the video or the text that's coming along, and the video. And then as I said about the script, practice it and it will find the gaps. And then build out your scripts. You notice I haven't built this slide out. And you're probably sitting there saying, yeah, I've already read all the slide. You can talk now. You can stop now. These are the tools that we use. For audio tools, we have a very small USB mic that we use a lot. But we also have a larger mic and some audio, some A to D conversion that goes on filtering. For video, basically lighting, it's a basic video toolkit. The software tools we use are Audacity, Camtasia, Final Cut, Mac Caption, and then the Adobe Studio as well, Prompter, and then finally Movavi. So here's the screen capture layout. Let's just talk about what's going on here. This is a very plain old room. Notice that there's nothing distracting behind me. And notice that my eyes are level with the camera that's on my machine. And now the key piece is your microphone should be roughly a hand's width away from your mouth. This is a standard voiceover technique, is to have it about this far. So I will use Camtasia as my capture, and I'll use this USB mic. It's about $89. It's less than $100. The video capture room layout, on the other hand, is a little bit more involved. And I know that Carlos had a lovely room that he talked about yesterday in his talk. We have a smaller budget, so we don't have that nice room. So this is what you can do. You can set up your lighting, your talent, your prompter, which you do need, and again, the set of tools that we use. Okay, so for capturing, first thing is, when you're going to capture, particularly audio, wear quiet clothes. Right? I know that I wore a shirt one day that was very stiff. I can hear it in the audio. Wear no jewelry because it will shake against things. And I just put my hands over the mic because I was moving my hands, and I'm sure heard it in the back. And practice with the teleprompter. It's hard to get the right pacing for that. And if you're talking to a teleprompter, if you're talking to the screen, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, short videos. Carlos said this yesterday too. Short videos, short segments. It's much easier to correct any mistakes. It's much easier to keep you flowing. And you can edit it. We can edit these transitions later. In terms of the video sessions, keep those short. Your voice will change over the hour, and you will hear it in the video. And you get tired. It's tiring to make these videos. Stay hydrated. I was going to actually pull up my water. Have snacks and avoid milk products. Standard vocal coaching. Okay, so in terms of the room, listen to the room. Listen to the ambient noise. If it sounds really loud, find another room. We unfortunately have to do these in conference rooms and have to set everything up. We don't have our own space. Again, I'm talking to small teams that are limited in terms of resources. Take a test video segment to make sure that it's okay. Leave space at the beginning of the capture and leave space at the end because it allows you easy editing. And for correcting mistakes, in screen capture, it's really easy. Pause, say reset, or just pause, start again, and just go. If you have to reset your slides, go back and reset them. Just leave no space in the audio track. That's harder to put together later. But if it's video, it generally requires reshooting because the person moves and it's hard to splice that back together. Okay, audio recording tips. Audio is really the most important piece. Anecdotal evidence says people watch these videos at about 1.5x, so they're not paying a lot of attention to the video part. Secondly, I also know that a number of people, if they could just download the audio as a podcast, they would do that, and they would just listen to it and never look at the video. So if they could have slides in the podcast, they'd be happy as clams. So putting a lot of effort into the video isn't always worth it unless you're actually capturing something that you're doing, like coding or deriving an equation. Okay, most microphones are carotid microphones. So what does that mean? That means that the sensitivity is at the front. All of this area here is where it's picking up the sound and nothing in the back. make sure that you have your microphone facing the proper way. This apple is here because it's a stand-in. See, if you think about it, here's a lovely plot. An electrical engineer would be like, oh, it's beautiful. The rest of us are saying, I'm not going to remember that. But if you think about the apple, you can think about where that microphone has to be in order for your voice to get picked up. Remember, you're teaching other people how to do this. This is part of what we're doing. OK, again, check your microphone to make sure it's not picking up unwanted sound. Sometimes it has to do with the sensitivity. And finally, prepare your voice. Stay hydrated. This is another voice coach idea. Slices of green apple will keep your mouth moist and make it easier for you to do the audio and video. OK, editing. Here we go. So this is Camtasia. We use Camtasia a lot because we're doing screen captures. We're either doing screen captures of PowerPoints that have been built out, or we're doing screen captures of actual coding. That's tricky, actually, to try to do and capture. But, or we're doing screen captures of doing something, like you saw the concept map being built. So here's the key. The captured videos are up over there, and then I've dragged one into the timeline. The key takeaway here is you can see these large spaces, and you can see the audio wave. That's how I edit. I edit by using the audio wave. So here's where I made a mistake. I had my first attempt. I left a long space. I said reset. I left a long space, and I tried again. And then that allows me a whole bunch of space to edit it. And this is what the track looks like when I edit it. So I've added the highlights. You see these are here where I've added the circle. I've removed the resets. I've cut these. I'm transitioning between the two slides. These are all features that are easily used in Camtasia, and they have very good videos. I recommend this because for instructors, it's really easy to get used to using. The professional tools are much harder. OK, but here are the professional tools. If you have actual video, this is what professionals use. The learning curve is a bit steeper. I can work in Final Cut. I'm not a whiz. But you can get some really nice effects. And the key thing for this, if you have really bad audio, you can correct it with Final Cut and Adobe Pro tools. And that's a lot harder. Camtasia doesn't let you do as much with that. Even Audacity doesn't let you do as much in terms of fixing audio. And sometimes that's what happens. We had someone do something in a conference room, and they were someone who we were working with, and we only had the one take. That was it. So I had to make that audio sound good, and this is how we did it. OK, delivery. So the obvious things. It has to be playable in all browsers. And so what happens is you get a lot of these that will create them as MP4s. Firefox will not take and play an MP4. It needs a WebM. And you may not realize that because YouTube automatically converts it for you. We can't put our videos on YouTube. So I've had to do this by myself. And so there are a number of converters. Obviously, you can't use YouTube. So I use Movavi. You can also use VLC. And then the captioning. Another reason for having a script, if you have a script and you use Met Caption, it's expensive, but if you use it, it saves you enormous amounts of time. It is, in that respect, it's well worth it. Camtasia and YouTube have some voice to text. It's very immature, and it gets better. If you only have one instructor, and if they keep using it, it will learn to understand their voice. OK, so here is the Camtasia captioning track. This only works on the Windows side, and what you do is you can get it's very simple, actually. There's a button, you click it, voice to text, it gives you back a script. Let's see what that looks like. OK, so I said, how will I know that the student, and I get over here, how will I know that the student understand what is the evidence, what I need to put in place for the student can lower. But then, so the section about what do I need to put in place, this data didn't quite get. But I have here, with those questions in mind, we can drill into the primary question on the concept map. And I'm going to try to say this without laughing. But what I get is, with those questions in mowing, we can drill into the primary question, Highway Bill Dudley Ellis course. So, so you can see there's still significant editing, particularly if you're teaching something in the sciences or technology because they're not used to that language. They'll learn over time. It needs to be practiced. And YouTube, I have similar accuracy. Oops, okay. So in summary, here are some of the software trade-offs. So these are for the screen capture and video editing. You know, you have things that are very easy to use and fairly inexpensive. And there are some really good tutorials for these. That's part of the reason that we use them. You have other tools that have moderate to steep learning curves. Moderate to learn it, to use it in some sort of basic fashion, which is what I do. Fairly steep to become a professional. I mean, that's why they are for professionals. And then I have the list there as to which systems they work for. Likewise for audio recording and editing. So if you just need to get the audio, you can use Audacity. If you need something more involved, those are much steeper. Again, they're used mostly for the voiceover community. And then finally, the captioning and conversion trade-offs. You know, Movave is fairly inexpensive. It works on Mac and Windows. There aren't very many things that work well on Linux, unfortunately. YouTube is free if you can use it, and then VLC is free. And then the captioning. See, the caption is very expensive. And if you have the script, I'm talking really Zoom. It just works. And you get back your SRT script. Less so for, obviously, for Camtasia. So basically, in the interest of questions, I'm going to fly over the summary and give you the list of acknowledgments that I want to show, and my contact information. So are there any questions?
I had a comment more than a question.
Yes.
So your point on audio being the most important is like super spot on. That audio, if it's not something you've done before, creating good audio for your courses is so critical to making it something pleasant to consume. And you did sort of touch on it that the type of microphone you buy is important. If you're not familiar with the lingo for types of microphones, you should be looking for the cardioid microphone or looking for condenser microphones, which is different from your standard stage microphone, right? Like the audio will sound so much different and so much more real through a condenser mic that it'll change the quality entirely. The trade-off is that it's super sensitive and it'll pick up, you know, like a cat breathing 3 doors down.
Yeah.
So one of the things, did everybody hear that? Basically, it was a comment on the type of microphones that you really want to go to. I call them carotids, but maybe I'm wrong, or condenser microphones, because they're really the ones that are used for voice audio. The problem is they are sensitive. One of the things I found about the little USB microphone is that it's less sensitive. You might want to set it on something so it doesn't get a lot of jitter on a table, but it's less sensitive than the condenser microphones, which are really sensitive, so that you can use it in sort of a workplace environment. If you have a room that's quiet, that's fabulous. And if you're building a room and you don't have a lot of money, go get that egg crate foam, stick it on the wall, because that will pick up a lot of the sound. Someone else had a question over here. Sorry, yes?
I just wanted to point out the importance of focusing on the audio also allows you to improve the accessibility of your video. If you build your video, if you imagine that your audience may be listening to the video in their car, which they actually might be doing, or while they're cooking in the kitchen or something, consuming it like it was a podcast, then you need to, so you will actually reach an audience that cannot see as well. And I would encourage you, if you're filming a professor that's writing on a whiteboard or doing some sort of a lot of visual instruction, to verbalize everything that they're doing, because again, you'll be able to reach a non-sighted audience as well to provide the same value.
Great, thank you. And we had another, since I know that we have this going out and we can't really hear,
So the portable version of that egg crate foam she was mentioning is something called a reflection filter. If you do have especially a small room or a noisy room, just Google reflection filter. You can get them on Amazon. There are some very inexpensive ones, and it's just a three-sided thing of egg crate foam that goes around your mic, and it can make a lot of difference. The reason it's called a reflection filter is you probably have noticed this unconsciously. You can tell the size of a room from a recording of the person's voice because you can hear their voice bouncing off the walls. Those are reflections. So especially if you're in a small space, you can really hear like that the walls are right there when the person's speaking because their voice is bouncing off of it. So putting that reflection filter around their mic can make a huge difference if you have to record in a conference room or a noisy room. Yeah.
Right. I'm moving around to more questions. I'm afraid, oh, sorry. Sorry to the camera guy. But otherwise people won't hear.
I would like to recommend a headband microphone. Instead, you can find, for example, for $50 or something like that. Then you wear your microphone. It can be condenser microphone just in front of your mouth. Then you don't have to worry about walls or whatever because you can adjust a very lower volume. And we have a service for transcription that's run for the hour. It's something like $8 per hour. It's much better than YouTube, and you don't need the transcript. So, and I probably you can find another solutions. But
So in our case, we aren't allowed to share the information, so we have to do it in-house. The one thing I would caution against in terms of those headphone microphones is that you don't want to use a Bluetooth microphone because they are just cut in and out, and it's pretty terrible.
There's a screen you can buy to put over the microphone in front of it for popping. If you get pops on your P's and your S's, that will eliminate that.
In fact, I think it's called a pop screen.
Yeah.
No, and that's a good one. I'd forgotten to add that, partly because we don't actually end up using it, though. If you listen to some of our videos, you could. You could see that we need it. Are there any? Oh, no, there's just we just have more time. Are there any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned about teleprompter. I was wondering if you can elaborate a little bit more on that, about like maybe what you use or suggestions.
So I used Prompter, I think it was called Prompter Pro, and I used that because I was using the Mac, and that one worked for the Mac. John, what did we use in the iPad? We used something else on the iPad. What's nice about the iPad is that, or any tablet, is that when you set up your video camera, you set up your video camera far enough away. So imagine I had a music stand right beneath the camera over there. Now I'm looking at the camera, so I'm looking dead on. The tripod is right beneath it with my teleprompter. It looks like I'm looking at the camera because the angle distance from here to there is so small that you get that effect. And so that's the only thing I'd say. It's a matter of where you're going to stage it. And then there are a number of free ones. So try the free ones and figure out what you're comfortable with. And again, the tablet was very nice because it fit easily. The laptop doesn't fit like on a music stand. I had a music stand around. It falls off. Are there any other questions, comments? I'm coming over because if they are going to capture it, they might as well capture the.
Yeah. So two things: if you're recording like technical content or you're coding, like you mentioned before, definitely don't want to have the mic on the same table as the laptop or keyboard that you're using. It'll pick up those vibrations and really make them pretty loud. And two, Adobe has their Creative Cloud suite. It's $60 a month, and you get their full suite of professional tools, and that's a pretty good deal. Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people use them. The problem that I found was I don't know that it does the screen capture quite so well. And what I have found is that when I have screen capture and I want to call out something and highlight it, it's a lot easier to do those effects in Camtasia than it is to do them in the Adobe or Final Cut. Either of those I found just a little bit harder. So for and I've talked to other friends who are also working in this space where they're working with instructors and helping instructors develop courses, and they find that Camtasia's got that short learning curve. They don't lose their student. Now, if they get the instructor, and they are like, oh, this is great, and I'd like to do more, then they'll take them to Adobe. But the good on-ramp is like low, Camtasia is better than iMovie or whatever. And so people want to start with that, and it's like, no, can you start with Camtasia? It's a lot easier for me to edit after, and that's a nice on-ramp, and then go from there.
I just have one more thing. In terms of screen capture,
Yep.
if you have a Mac, you can simply use QuickTime, and QuickTime has a screen capture capability. It comes with the OS X, so.
Right. So that is one. I don't know
People don't
how.
know that it actually does screen capture and selective screen capture.
But does it allow you to edit?
Yeah, well, if you import it into,
So this is what someone had done. The one that I had, they used. The conference room was phenomenally loud and horrible, and they used QuickTime. They captured everything, and some slides, some actually typing of code examples. And then that's what I had to take into Final Cut, and I could because I could do that. But it's not that I can capture it. So the beauty of Camtasia is you're capturing it, you stop the recording, and it brings up the Camtasia environment right away, and you're right there. There's no importing media; it's there, and it's all in one step. So I guess that's why I would say the Camtasia. But the QuickTime did work, except for the conference room nonsense. I know it was like a train was going through. Yes. Coming to you.
I have an anti-tip, which is for the love of all that is good, do not let anyone use webex as their screen capturing tool. I've had some SMEs, subject matter experts, do this where they don't know how to use, or they don't have a Mac, or they don't know how to use QuickTime or any of the tools that I suggest for them. And they use WebEx, and it's not even multiple people talking. It's like one person in their personal WebEx room, and they hit record. And WebEx is just a nightmare. Their recordings come out in a proprietary format. You have to convert it to any other format you can use. The converter only works on Windows, so you can't do it on a Mac. The recordings themselves are terrible. The audio quality and the video quality is terrible. So yeah, I don't know if anybody here is going to or had that problem, but do not let anybody use WebEx as your screen recording option. No, don't go there.
Oh, more. So I'll walk more slowly this time. I realized I zoomed, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing my fast Boston walk, and they're trying to follow me. So, but now I'm up close.
Just one thing that might help for the screen recording. In the studio I set up, I just have a little capture box. It's actually for capturing computer games, Xbox and PlayStation. What's really nice, you can just plug in any HDMI, so they don't need to have anything on their computer. They can bring in their own computer, press one button, and save it to a thumb drive or a SSD drive or hard drive. Take the thumb drive off, and it makes it really easy. And what I find with Camtasia, sometimes on my PC, the fan starts kicking in, and I'm picking that up on my mic. So this is solid state, it's fanless, and takes no CPU. So that's been useful, and it's $150.
So what's it called?
So the one I use is made by Aver Media. It's a game capture 2, and it works well. So
Great. That is a good tip to know. Are there any other questions, comments? I think we're probably at the... All right, looks like, thank you all for coming. Thank you for participating in the discussion at the end. I appreciate the tips I got. Thanks.